I think it's probably a great example of a baseline of what a malt, what a single malt in Australia can be. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Wade and you are here today with me on McIntyre's Malts. And for those of you that saw my recent video on the Overeem Port Cask matured expression, I thought it's only right that I do a tasting and review on the Overeem Sherry Cask matured whiskey as well. So today, that's what we're going to dive into. Overeem Sherry Cask matured. Alright, so you can see there's a little bit more in this bottle than there was in the Port Cask bottle I have. And this one very much is the same way that Overeem presents its whiskey. The Sherry Cask maturation is also single cask bottled and non-chill filtered. Again, I'm not sure if it's colored, but as I said in the previous video, it's something that I would probably give Overeem the benefit of the doubt on and say that it is probably natural color as well. Again, if you know any different, please leave a comment below. This bottle that I have is cask number OD375 and bottle number 61 of 136. So again, that indicates to me smaller barrels that Overeem are using to mature their whiskey, given that they're only getting 136 bottles from a cask. So this expression today is 43% ABV and it cost in the range of 190 to 200 Australian dollars. Now, again, you can also get a cask strength version of the Sherry Cask matured whiskey from Overeem, and that sits at about 60% ABV. Okay, so let's pour ourselves a dram and start with the nosing. Okay. This has a nice color as well. Nice rich color. Let's get into the nosing of the Sherry Cask Overeem and see what we can uncover. Gorgeous, very nice. There's a nice quality to this whiskey. You get this scent that's a lighter malt. It's malty, but it's a bit more subdued. Lighter honey. I think a little less of those darker fruits that you typically experience on a Sherry Cask maturation, and not a lot of that is coming through. I'm getting similar notes to the Port Cask maturation, but it's almost turned down a notch. Lighter fruits than I would typically on a Sherry Cask influence on a whiskey. I'm getting stone fruits, apricots, I get the yellow plum, those lighter sun plums. Very much that tropical fruit note is there with a bit of malt and honey. Almost, as I say, a subdued note compared to the Port Cask. The Sherry Cask Overeem doesn't have as much complexity as the port cask does. Okay, let's try this one on the palate and let you know what I think. Okay, this one is just honey and oak and malt. I don't get a lot else on this one. I'm a little surprised. I feel the sherry cask influence is very minor on this one. It's a great malt whiskey. There's not a lot of complexity. Reasonable finish. Little bit of dryness now. Mostly the oakiness is hanging around on my palate. Malt, honey, and oak. It's a really nice whiskey. It's very enjoyable. I think it's definitely one worth picking up to experience Australian whiskies. Probably a really nice starting place if you're on a journey of uncovering what Australian whiskies are out there. I would recommend the Overeem Sherry Cask as a really nice place to get your feet wet, just sort of dip your toe in the water. And I think it's probably a great example of a baseline of what a single malt in Australia can be. All right, let's try again now. After I've had some time for the whiskey to sit in my glass and open up a little bit, let's see what I can get, if there's any other notes that I'm picking up on the nose. There's a little more vanilla now. Almost like a sugary, like a sugar syrup type, maybe a or like vanilla marshmallow even. Very much led by a sugary sweetness rather than vanilla bean. Still malt, honey, and oak. This is probably what you'd consider a quintessential Australian single malt whiskey. It's just exactly what it is. You can tell that it's made with good quality produce. It's just very clean and neat and straightforward, and that's not a bad thing. There's not a lot of complexity in this one, and I think it would serve it very well to allow lengthier maturation. Given that these Overeem expressions are non-age statements, in Scotland it has to be in oak for at least 3 years to be called whiskey, but in Australia it only has to be in a barrel for 2 years, and it doesn't even specify as yet in our regulations that it needs to be in oak. So many Australian distilleries honor those Scottish traditions and still allow that minimum of 3 years in the cask before bottling, but by law they don't need to. So I have no indication whether this is a 2-year-old whiskey I'm drinking, a 3-year-old whiskey, a 5-year-old whiskey. I can't be sure. Other than on the palate, it doesn't feel youthful in that it's not entirely forward driven by the spirit character. There's very much oak and influence at play, but I think it hasn't developed to its fullest potential yet, if that makes sense. Very lovely whiskey, but it doesn't stand out as there's nothing that grabs your attention. You know that you have a great quality whiskey in your glass, and it's beautiful on the palate, it's great on the nose, and that's what it is. Okay, let's try now on my palate once more for the second sip and the finish. maltiness is there. The sweet vanilla. Think almost maybe a toffee that's not like a rich dark. It's very light, like a vanilla toffee perhaps. A hint of those lighter stone fruits, being the apricots, the yellow plums. A little dryness, that oaky wood influence, but not a lot of dark fruit influence that I'm getting at all. Lovely whiskey. Absolutely think it's one worth trying, and for an Australian whiskey to be producing such a nice quality whiskey that may well only be barely a handful of years matured, it only begs the imagination of where this whiskey can truly go with a little bit more time in the barrel. So thank you guys for being here and checking out my Overeem Sherry Cask expression tasting and review on McIntyre's malts. And until the next one, go and grab yourself some Australian whiskey and let me know what you think of it. And be sure to enjoy your whiskey responsibly. Cheers, guys.